Man, to be honest, they should have just gave it to him.
This year's Nobel Peace Prize winner is Barack Obama.
Barack Hussein, drone bomber, is of course right now with no more Nobel Peace Prize. The gloves are off with Donald Trump, as it looks like he's taking a very hardened approach with the Secretary of War that had some very bombastic statements to make surrounding, of course, Russia and Ukraine. All of this as there are now high-ranking Republican members of this government that are actually speaking out against Donald Trump's type of policy here that a lot of people are questioning. Some people are praising. Some people are saying he's doing an incredible job. He's doing an awesome job, as there are a lot of remnants of the old policy with his policy. But what's the long-term plan here, especially when it comes to the threats of Tomahawk missiles? This, as right now, in the making of this video, the President of the United States is on the phone with Putin, as tensions couldn't be any higher. What's going to be the result of all of this? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in this particular video, as the stakes couldn't be any higher. If you appreciate these type of very serious geopolitical foreign policy updates that we've been making for 20 years, accurately predicting a lot of this stuff that has been happening all the way back in 2014, we were like, 2014. It looks like this is the start of something bigger here. And it was, and it is. How is this all going to move from here? Now we have the wild card that is Donald Trump. And we are going to honestly describe the current situation as best as we can. So yeah, subscribe, click the notification button. Greatly appreciate all the time you have with us. Now, Donald Trump just a few minutes ago in the making of this video says, I am speaking to President Putin now. The conversation is ongoing, a lengthy one, and I will report the contents, as will President Putin. At its conclusion, thank you for your attention to this matter. Very just like, hey, well, we're talking. Okay, that's good, right? The previous type of approach here from the Biden administration was like, no diplomacy, no talking, nothing. No, we don't even recognize Putin as a legitimate leader here. Putin meddled in the election. He didn't. Just lies compounded upon lies by the Democratic political party that was literally pushing and cutting off diplomatic ties. At least there's a conversation, and you got to give credit where credit's due. Donald Trump, even though I disagree with some of his moves and assessments and some of his foreign policy that I've been very critical of, especially when you watch this channel, you got to give credit where credit is due. And Donald Trump is trying to broker, is trying to negotiate some deal here. We even have very kind of earnest conversations from him talking about, I want to get into heaven. I want to end this war. This war is senseless. It is stupid. It is ridiculous. Too many people are dying. I agree. That makes absolutely perfect sense here. As the United States since has hardened its stance on Russia, as we had some very tough talk by NATO as well within the last few days. At NATO headquarters, the U.S. Secretary of War just drew a direct line between Gaza's outcome, the Ukraine fighting, warning that if peace remains out of reach, the United States and its allies will impose more costs on Russia. What does those costs look like? Will they be financial? Will they be militarily done? Will they be done through space weapons, space fighting, fighting in the Arctic? As there are multiple type of scenarios and situations unfolding right now that also involve countries like Venezuela and Iran that are closely aligned with Russia as well. Now, Russia and Venezuela just made a big announcement here. All of this, as the latest topic of discussion here, is surrounding these Tomahawk missiles. Now, there are already some sources reporting, unconfirmed sources, the United States has made the decision. The United States is sending the Tomahawk missiles. Those haven't been confirmed, anonymous sources, but that looks like the trajectory that we are on right now, as Russia is officially responding to this, saying, look, you send Tomahawk missiles, there's going to be escalations here. As Vladimir Putin came out and said, we're working on new weapons. We're going to be debuting them soon. Another kind of veiled saber rattle threat against the West and Ukraine, saying, look, you want to send in your latest and greatest missile tech that's very difficult to shoot down? we're going to be inventing new weapons and testing them out, signaling, yeah, we'll use some new stuff. As already, the Russians have highlighted how they have tsunami-like weapons, how they have space-like weapons, arsenic weapons that pulverize things into dust with just gravity, that could be equipped with nuclear warheads, by the way, that have already been used in Ukraine. As Europass Press is reporting that the Kremlin is fuming over Trump's hinting at arming Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles, calling it a new level of escalations, and this could bring in a new kind of nuclear doctrine, since when these missiles fly, they fly usually at low altitudes. They could be equipped with nuclear warheads, and with the Russians getting reports there's a Tomahawk missile, it could have a nuclear warhead flying at them. This obviously creates a very type of escalatory type of situation that is very dangerous for everyone involved here. As now Moscow is claiming that the missiles could hit them directly and insists Ukraine could launch them without help from Western intel. And as again, they need Western intel. They need the satellites. They need all the advanced tech. They need essentially just Igor standing next to them pressing the button. Now, Trump, in response to the Russians saying, we're going to escalate things when you escalate things, says, hey, you just got to stop killing people. As right now, people are saying we need less diplomacy, more long-range firepower missiles. That's the new peace plan, apparently, according to Mario on the phone. It doesn't sound like a peace plan. It sounds like an escalatory track that soon could escalate into grave, dangerous proportions, as Alex Jones has already come out and claimed we are in World War IV. Now, I agreed with that. I disagreed with that assessment. I agreed with his breakdown. I did a more nuanced video about this yesterday that I think is definitely worth watching. Now, the Financial Times is reporting that the U.S. will directly attack Russia with Tomahawk missiles. That's essentially how the world sees it. And that it's not fun. All bets are off when that happens. Now, before talking about that and talking about the pushback that Trump is getting from his own Republican Party, we wanted to tell you about wearechange.shop. A great shop, a great store filled with a lot of high quality, great supplements. We have Liposol vitamin C, which you should take with food, preferably with some fat. I was on Instagram and I saw Dr. Robert Love, and he made this video, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting video. What is he talking about?
This one pill a day, can help reduce wrinkles, repair your skin, and increase collagen production. It's good for your heart and vascular system, and it even supports a healthy immune system. And this is very, very inexpensive, and almost no doctors are talking about it. If you're new to my channel.
What was he talking about? Can you guess? Can you guess out of all the supplements he was on? Vitamin C. Yep. Lots of people take vitamin C, especially now, because this is cold and flu season where people start getting sick. I don't like getting sick. I don't want to get sick. I want to boost up my immune system. So I, of course, take care of myself. 1, exercise, diet, sleep, reduction of stress, meditation, being able to, of course, live a healthy, holistic type of active lifestyle. Number 1. 2, supplementation. Why? Because our food is just chemically reduced to being now more heavily processed, has a lot less nutritional value than it did before. Lots of the nutrients are just being eviscerated with monocropping, and we just don't have the same amount of minerals and vitamins that the food used to have. And that's why I think a lot of people are unhealthy, and that's why I think supplementation is a must. A lot of other people like Joe Rogan also believe supplementation is a must. That's why I created my own store, wearechange.shop, have my own products. I like this product. I want to be taking some today just to boost up my immune system. I have a little bit of a runny nose, and I'm like, what's going on here? I'm going to take some vitamin C now. And because you want to take preventative measures, you want to boost up the immune system, you want to make sure that if you are getting sick, that you take the best type of actions. I'm also going to go probably to the sauna later on today and try to deal with it that way, as well as doing a meditation and then going to bed a little bit earlier and making sure that I take care of myself as best as I possibly can. And I can't recommend that enough for you, since so many of us are not in the best of shape. I want you in the best of shape. I want you happy. I want you healthy. And that's why I created wearechange.shop. Support it right now. Support yourself. And check out our great products like vitamin C. Now, let's get back to this type of ongoing situation, especially with some of these hyperbolic type of saber rattles that are happening by the Russians, by the United States, against each other, highlighting a clear escalatory track that we're all on.
Arriving at the NATO headquarters, the US Defense Secretary was keen to show that what's been achieved in Gaza could also be applied to Ukraine, and revealed what seemed to be a significant hardening of attitude towards Russia.
If there is no path to peace in the short term, then the United States, along with our allies, will take the steps necessary to impose costs on Russia for its continued aggression. If we must take this step, the U.S. War Department stands ready to do our part in ways that only the United States can do.
Yeah. Now, what's the United States going to be doing? Well, they have been financing, funding, bankrolling this conflict, and a lot of people believe have engineered it since 2014, where John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and a lot of these type of leftist type of warmongers also came in, the Barack Obamas, Hillary Clintons, and were like, yeah, we need a revolution in Ukraine. And that's exactly what happened, leading Ukraine to be more favorable towards the West, not the East. The East saw that as a threat. The East kind of had a little proxy conflict involved there. The first bombs and bullets started flying all the way back in 2014. Not a lot of people understand that. Now, the Financial Times reporting that the United States directly attacking Russia with tomahawks. That's exactly what's happening here, except there's going to be a Ukrainian standing by, and they're going to say Ukraine's doing it. As we have this by the Eurasian Times, tomahawks for Ukraine, a destabilizing move that leaves Russia no choice but to respond. How can Putin hit back? As there's talk about the Orsinik missile systems. There's new ground-based launchers called the Oshkosh X-MAV systems, autonomous type of vehicles that could be used and implemented here. There's a lot of talks about how can we mitigate tomahawks, and it's very difficult for the Russians to do that. Now, there was also another situation where 2 NATO F-35s were scrambled to intercept a Russian spy plane off of Norway. Now, this is interesting because Donald Trump says, listen, Russia sends in planes or drones, shoot them down. Now, luckily, that didn't happen here. That would have been a full-on escalatory track, as, of course, the situation is ripe. It's a powder keg for a potential false flag type of operation that could leave the intelligence agencies, the military-industrial complex, in a perfect situation where they're like, yeah, look, it's a war. Now we have to escalate things. Now we have to intensify things. Now, luckily, that didn't happen. The F-35 scrambled, intercepted the Russian spy plane in Norway. People saw this as the latest provocation from Putin. And again, with Donald Trump saying, yeah, we're going to shoot down anything that goes into NATO airspace. Him just saying, yeah, look, I'm going to fly a spy plane over NATO. It shows you that, listen, there's a lot of bluffing here. There's also a lot of action, right? And when we have such action and when we have such major type of dangerous situations, and again, it doesn't even have to be a false flag. It could be an accident that could happen. Now, the reports are coming in that the plane had special electronics and communications and intelligence capable of radar imaging and mapping here. Moscow has not commented on this kind of latest kind of interception here. The Kremlin has dismissed NATO's complaints and claimed its aircraft operates, quote, lawfully in international skies. According to the Norway government, Russia has invaded its airspace on 3 occasions this year alone. There's also accusations of them doing that in Romania, Estonia, and in Poland. Now, the Polish government responded by getting backing from the UK government. They're flying UK fighter jets on Polish territory and saying anything that kind of flies over, including drones, will be shot down immediately. Now, Peak Headset, after making those comments, had an emergency landing after this NATO summit type of meeting on the Russian-Ukraine war, as the Secretary of War's Boeing C-32A was flying over the Atlantic on Wednesday. There's a crack in the windshield. Luckily, no one was hurt. Nothing serious happened here. But obviously everyone is on edge here, paying attention to all the little details here, since there are a lot of things that are going to be blamed either on the West or the East as part of escalatory scenarios. Alexander Dugin, Putin's brain, says this is the worst scenario as he comments on Hegseth's message here. And again, his message is very clear. If this war doesn't end, there's no path to peace. The United States is going to get more involved. Now, a lot of people don't want the United States more involved here. What does it mean that the United States is going to take more action? Are we talking about more sanctions? I mean, we're already sanctioning them pretty heavily. We're trying to sanction and have sanctioned and have imposed tariffs on countries like India that buy Russian energy and then sell it to the world market. China does that as well, but we haven't said anything really about China. Now, it looks like there's also going to be the suspension of Russian athletes from the Olympics. That's also one of the discussions here. The conversations now are, I think, more important than ever, especially with what is happening right now in the making of this particular video. I mean, I could only imagine. Putin laid out his 5 steps towards peace, and it looks like the West, overwhelmingly Ukraine, is saying, no, we're not going to be meeting on any of this. As right now, during this phone call, they are probably speaking about a lot of things. As the Russians have come forward saying, look, we'll end this. Here's our 5-part plan here, and let's make some money. We'll release a lot of energy on the world. We'll mine rare earth minerals that are in desperate need now, since China just cut them off from the rest of the world. And now Russia is offering that. But if that doesn't work, they're going to go to countries like Venezuela and be like, hey, Venezuela, let's control the world's energy supply. Let's work together in cooperation here. And of course, they're going to do that with China. They're going to be, and there's also territorial disputes between China and Russia. It would be very advantageous for Russia to collapse for China. That would get a lot of its kind of important water-based territory that they're in desperate need of in their particular regions that are filled with deserts. Now, China here also is, according to many reports, getting aid and assistance from Russia when it comes to their training of invading Taiwan. As people believe, listen, another conflict sparks off. This is going to be China's opportunity to go after Taiwan. Now, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna came out and she says, quote, I genuinely don't understand the pro-war faction of NATO. It is bizarre. And I agree. DC Drano puts $, Yeah. Matt McKibben says, you mean the people who realize they should prepare for war if their neighbor is invaded? And that's another kind of understanding here from some of the individuals here. But I think it's fair to say that there has been a hijacking of our foreign policy for pure financial gain, and the distribution of funds, civilian funds, towards individuals that don't have the best track record and have lied us into wars way too many times. Now, the Russians also have shown goodwill. They just released the JFK assassination dossier, their own investigation on this. It just came out. I just posted about it on Twitter at Luke We Are Change. And Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna decided to delve into a little bit more on this, saying, my criticism of the war in Ukraine is not with the Ukrainian people, but with Zelensky directly. He was pressured by the British government into not taking a peace deal over 2 years ago. That is true. Boris Johnson flew over there and said, the peace deal was pretty much like done, signed. The war would have been over. Huge amounts of territory would have been saved for the Ukrainians, and huge amounts of life loss would have been prevented. And the UK government said, no, you're not. And Zelensky listened to Boris Johnson, which I think was absolutely just criminal, as now we're dealing with a situation that is essentially the forever type of conflict. She says, quote, leaders face pressure all the time, but a good one understands that their only job should be fighting for their people, not foreign governments' interests. The war hawks in NATO and neocons here in the United States would love to continue the slaughter of both nations' youth. Yep. Especially since they're white guys, especially young Slavic white guys. It's pretty trendy not to like those guys. Okay? They're like, yeah, get rid of those guys. The left is like, more war there. No more war in Gaza. More war in Ukraine. I'm like, you hypocrites. I partially blame the UK for not even allowing peace talks to take place. This war must index. An attempt to shoot our way out of this will only lead to an irreversible escalation. Dear world, let's resort to what we all learned in kindergarten, solving problems with our words. Yes, more diplomacy, more detente, more restraint needed now more than ever. Lots of hypocrisy on the left here, on the military-industrial complex, on the intel agencies, all the Democratic Party that wants to see this war escalate. Don't give them that. Whatever you do not give them to that. There needs to be pressure on Trump saying, no more escalations, stop it. Put pressure on both sides. Let's end this now. If you agree, share this video. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys sharing these videos, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more. All here exclusively on youtube.com/wearechange. Thank you so much for supporting us and supporting your own individual health and personal well-being. Love you guys.